I'm going to tell you my story myself, because this isn't just a prison escape story. It's a story about standing up against injustice with intelligence, courage, and unity. It all started in 1973, when the entire country was burning with riots and chaos because of racism. People with black skin were treated brutally, denied basic rights, and punished just for demanding equality. The government, the police, the entire system was controlled by white racists who couldn't tolerate resistance. People were being killed in large numbers, and even children weren't spared. In that dark time, resistance groups began to rise, and one of them was ANC, the African National Congress, the same organization Nelson Mandela belonged to. I, Tim Jenkin, and my close friend Stefan Lee were members of this group. We didn't carry guns, we carried ideas. One day I walked the streets with 2 bags and placed them inside trash cans, while Stefan did the same at different spots. A short while later, those bags exploded, not with bombs, but with flyers spreading everywhere. Those flyers carried messages against racism. We couldn't hand them out openly because the police would arrest us instantly, so this was our way to make people read and think for themselves. But no matter how careful we were caught. What we did was considered a serious crime, and before the trial, my girlfriend came to see me. She gave me some money and told me to hide it, because money inside prison could make survival a little easier. After she left, I went to the bathroom, sealed the cash inside a small tube, and hid it where guards wouldn't find it during searches. In court, the judge was openly biased and supported the oppression. So without listening to us, he sentenced me to 12 years in prison and Stefan to 8 years. We were shocked. Stefan couldn't accept it and even tried to escape from court once, but he was caught immediately. Soon after, we were sent to Pretoria Prison, the most secure prison in Africa, a place everyone believed was impossible to escape. Inside, the rules were terrifyingly strict. No pins, no newspapers, no radio, no political talk, no physical relationships, and visits only once a month. We were taken to our cells, and to reach them, we had to pass through 6 heavily guarded gates. The main gate, an electric gate, grill gates combined with steel doors, and constant body checks by armed guards. Every gate felt like death was waiting on the other side. When the cell door finally shut behind me, I realized the real fight had just begun. Everyone believed escaping Pretoria Prison was impossible, but I believed something else. If a human mind can think freely, no wall is strong enough to hold it forever. Our cells were located in the very first colony of the prison, and even entering that colony required passing through another locked gate. Once that gate opened, I was taken to cell number 17, and my best friend Stefan was placed right next to me in cell number 18. Being that close felt like a small relief in a place designed to break you. Each cell was secured with 2 doors, one heavy metal grill and another solid steel door, and no prisoner could step in or out unless the jailer ordered it. That jailer was a man named Mong, the most powerful figure inside the prison because he carried every key and controlled every movement. Stefan and I quickly learned to communicate by tapping softly on the wall between our cells, turning silence into our secret language. I had already decided before coming to prison that I would escape no matter what, but after seeing the layers of security with my own eyes, that first night I couldn't sleep at all. My mind kept racing, wondering how anyone could ever break out of a place like this. The next morning, when the breakfast bell rang, an elderly prisoner named Dennis approached me and guided me to a table. He calmly explained how prison life worked here. He told me there were 2 groups of prisoners. The blue group, made up of extremely dangerous inmates, some serving life sentences and others waiting to be executed, and the gray group, which included people like us, prisoners with sentences between 2 and 12 years, most of them political activists who had stood up against racism. Dennis warned me firmly to never sit with the blue group because they were violent and unpredictable. Just then, Stefan accidentally sat with them, and prisoners from the gray group started banging on the table to warn him. Realizing his mistake, Stefan immediately got up and came to sit with me. As Dennis continued talking, I told him honestly that even though our combined sentence felt like 80 years, we weren't planning to stay here that long, we were going to escape. While we were talking, a cleaner accidentally dropped some plates and suddenly Officer Mong appeared. Without hesitation, he began beating the man brutally, humiliating him in front of everyone. That moment burned into my mind because it showed how endlessly the black prisoners were abused. confused. They were forced to do all the cleaning work, and even the smallest mistake meant severe punishment. Later that evening, during exercise time, Dennis shared more details about the prison. He told us the walls were nearly 20 feet high, topped with razor wire, and surrounded by powerful searchlights that stayed on from sunset to sunrise. On top of the walls, snipers were always stationed, ready to shoot any prisoner they even suspected of trying something. Dennis said every new prisoner dreams of escaping at first, but after a few weeks, fear takes over and they give up, and many people had already lost their lives trying. As he spoke, another prisoner named Leonard was listening from a distance. Later, Leonard came up to us and told us not to believe Dennis, calling him a coward who scared people into giving up. Leonard believed that nothing in the world was truly impossible, and if we had a plan, he wanted to be part of it. That was the moment when Stefan, Leonard, and I silently became a team. From the very beginning, I knew that escaping this prison meant only one thing: opening those gates. So every single night, I carefully studied the locks from inside my cell, memorizing every detail. For 50 nights straight, I observed without rushing, training my eyes and my memory. One night, I rolled a piece of paper tightly and slid it into the keyhole to measure how deep it went, then slowly pulled it out and traced the shape of the lock onto the paper. The next day, during shower time, I whispered to Leonard that I had figured it out, that I would make keys and open the gates ourselves. He laughed at first, asking how I could possibly make keys and how we would copy so many of them, but I told him we had no choice but to try. My plan was to carve wooden keys, using the woodworking tasks we were assigned in prison, and secretly shaping them when no one was watching. The biggest challenge was seeing the real keys, since only guards like Mong carried them, so we created distractions by starting fake arguments and fights. When guards rushed in to control the situation, I carefully watched their key rings. Whether it was during meals, roll calls, inspections, or exercise time, whenever I got even a second, I studied those keys and memorized their shape. Each night, I sketched what I remembered, improving the drawings little by little. 75 days passed like this, and slowly the full picture became clear. I realized that most of the grill gate keys were almost identical, not exactly the same, but similar enough that a single well-made wooden key could open many of them. Back in 1973, security systems weren't as advanced as people think today, and that realization changed everything. At that moment, escape stopped feeling like a crazy idea and started feeling like a real plan, one that could actually work. Back then, prison locks weren't advanced like they are today. The keys were big, simple, and often very similar, which is why the idea of making a common key was even possible. And honestly, no one in 1973 could imagine that a prisoner would carve wooden keys and quietly open 5 or 6 gates right under the noses of armed guards. So the system itself never prepared for something like this. The next day in the workshop, I started carving wooden keys based on the drawings I had made, shaping small pieces carefully, but before I could finish, the work bell rang, and even though everyone stopped, I kept working, which Mong noticed immediately, raising his suspicion. He ordered all prisoners to line up and started a full search, checking clothes, hands, legs, everything, and I panicked because I couldn't hide the keys anywhere. Each prisoner had a metal flask for coffee, so I unscrewed the bottom, wrapped the wooden keys in cloth, and hid them inside, but Mong began shaking and banging each flask after dumping the liquid out. Somehow, because my keys were wrapped tightly at the bottom, they didn't make a sound, and once again, I survived by pure luck. Over the next several nights, I stayed awake, sanding and refining the wooden keys, testing them directly on my cell gate until they were perfect, hiding them inside a light box whenever guards came near. The first real test made my heart stop. I inserted the key, turned it slightly, and the grill gate opened, but that wasn't enough because the steel gate next to it had its keyhole facing outside the cell, which felt impossible to deal with. When I told Leonard, he asked if my key could work on steel locks too, and during cleaning duty, while Leonard stood watch, I examined the steel lock closely and realized I needed a different key, so once again I studied guards' key rings and carved another wooden key, which eventually opened the steel gate too. The danger peaked when one key snapped inside the lock lock just as Mong was approaching. I barely managed to pull the broken piece out before retreating to my cell, and somehow, Mong didn't notice a thing. One day, Leonard's young son came to visit, and when Leonard told him to always respect his black friends, the racist guards got angry and cut the visit short, which only strengthened our resolve. By day 142, we were still stuck on how to turn the outside-facing lock from inside the cell until we realized we could reach the lock through the window, and when Stefan noticed a broom, everything clicked. I built a rotating handle onto the broom using a design inspired by a hand crank machine from the workshop, attached the key, and that night, after several tense attempts, I managed to turn the outside steel lock from inside the cell. My joy vanished when the key slipped off and fell outside, and knowing we were finished if a guard saw it, I used chewing gum to stick the key back onto the broom and slowly pulled it in, saving us by seconds. The next morning, I told Stefan and Leonard that both grill and steel gates could be opened, and their faces lit up with disbelief and hope, while I continued hiding the keys in different places like the workshop, the yard, and storage areas, never keeping them on me. I didn't stop with my cell gates. I tested the colony's main gate, which opened easily, and while the upper floor had fewer barriers, I knew the real challenge was still ahead, because downstairs, many more gates stood between us and freedom. Once we realized that opening these gates could actually lead us out, we sat down with our team and talked everything through, because opening a few gates didn't guarantee that every gate would open, especially the ones on the lower floor, which could easily have different locks. I told them I would test the remaining gates late at night, and if they opened, we'd know escape was truly possible. But even then, just getting out of the prison wouldn't be enough. We had to reach the main road, cross the main entrance, and avoid the armed police outside, because if they saw us in prison uniforms, they'd shoot without hesitation. That's when Stefan handled the clothing problem. Since new prisoners arrived every week, he took a cleaning job and quietly stole the civilian clothes of 3 newcomers, hiding them under his uniform so no one noticed. Next, we needed a full prison map to plan a route with fewer guards and shortcuts, but those maps were kept in the office, so I used my hidden money to make a deal with a black cleaner who handled the entire prison. He wanted soap and cigarettes, and since handing them directly would raise suspicion, I stuck them under a trash bin with chewing gum and picked up the map he left there for me. After testing all the gates on the second floor, it was time for the most dangerous part, checking the lower floor gates, and I couldn't do that alone, so Leonard joined me. Late at night, wearing only socks to avoid noise, we slipped out of our cells, left the colony, and reached the lower floor, where I tried opening a grill gate, my hands shaking and sweat dripping as the first key failed, then another, until finally the gate opened. Just then, we heard a guard approaching, rushed into a storage room, and watched him inspect our cells, fooled by the fake human shapes we'd made with clothes on our beds. After he left, we moved again, opened another gate near the office after checking with a mirror that no one was inside, and I carefully marked which key opened which gate to save time later. When the guard returned downstairs, we hid again and slipped back into our cells, but he noticed drops of sweat near one gate, which led to the superintendent questioning me the next morning, accusing me of staying up at night and threatening to shoot me if I was caught doing anything suspicious. They searched my cell thoroughly but found nothing because I hid the keys in places no one would ever think of, like the light box, and no one could imagine a prisoner making dozens of wooden keys. I survived by inches, but I didn't stop. Night after night, I kept sneaking out, studying locks, carving keys, testing gates under unbearable tension, until fear followed me even during the day, my hands shaking constantly, yet I refused to quit. And in the end, I had made 37 different keys for 10 separate gates, each one bringing us closer to freedom. After 404 days inside that prison, the moment I had been waiting for finally came when, during a routine health check, the dentist said, "One of my teeth was badly damaged and needed surgery at an outside hospital, exactly what I wanted because I had intentionally ruined that tooth just to be taken out and study the final escape route with my own eyes." As I was escorted out, I carefully observed everything and realized the electric gate opened with a single button located inside the guard's office, and beyond that gate was one more door that led straight to the main road, meaning that was the true end of the prison boundary. This back gate stayed open during the day because it was used constantly for taking prisoners to hospitals, moving police vehicles, and bringing supplies in and out, something I already knew from the prison map. But seeing it in real life made everything clear and locked the plan in my mind. I returned knowing exactly how we would escape. Though I wanted to take more prisoners with us, most refused, saying too many people would get caught, and insisted that just the three of us escaping would already be a victory. Even though officers were suspicious, they never found anything in my cell because I never kept the keys there, and the prison map was hidden inside a toothpaste tube, completely sealed and impossible to detect. I showed the map to Stefan so he could memorize every turn, and then the day arrived, December 1969, when all prisoners were locked in for the night and silence took over the prison. In the darkness, Stefan, Leonard, and I slipped out of our cells, grabbed the civilian clothes Stefan had hidden in an empty cell, and changed quickly, while a guard patrolling the office went to fix a broken toilet using a pump from the storage room. We hid in that same storage room, waiting for the right moment, nearly doomed when we realized the guard would return there, but just in time, Dennis caused a power outage upstairs by damaging the lights, triggering chaos and screams that pulled the guard away, exactly as planned, to clear the office so we could reach the electric gate button. We moved fast, opening gate after gate, until we reached the final door, the last barrier to freedom, only to realize none of my keys worked on it. Exhausted and terrified, I said we had to go back or we'd be caught, but Leonard refused, saying he had already lost too much and would never return to that hell. And before I could stop him, he smashed the wooden frame holding the lock and ripped it free, opening the gate. Wearing civilian clothes, we stepped into the open courtyard, watched the sniper's movement with a small mirror, and the second he turned away, we walked calmly through the final road gate and out of the prison. Even outside, danger wasn't over, but the guards didn't recognize us. And once we reached the city street, we rented a car and vanished. The next morning, guards found our cells empty and panic exploded through the prison, while the other prisoners felt nothing but joy. Because this wasn't just an escape. It was a real, true story of freedom, earned by risking everything, proving that people who stand against injustice can be jailed, but they can never truly be broken.